Hi everyone, Pam Gregory, astrologer. I'm going to be speaking to you about the first half of August and the full supermoon, yet another supermoon, fourth in a row, that we are going to have on the 11th or 12th of August, depending on where in the world you live. But I really want to start again with this bigger picture because we have this incredibly rare and important triple conjunction Mars, Uranus, North Node that I talked about in the last couple of videos. But it's so important because we haven't had this for over 2,000 years. So it isn't just for the 2 days of exactitude, July 31st and the 1st of August. It will spread certainly through all of August, but really act as an ignition point for everything that unfolds for the rest of this year. So just to recap on that, it is very speedy energy because Mars and Uranus are both linked to speed in their symbolism. They want to do things quickly. Archetypally, it's volatile, it's chaotic, it's turbulent. We're jumping timelines. There are many shifts in timelines that we're going through right now. And so it's eruptive energy. We may see more earthquakes, volcanoes, seismic activity, particularly because as we go into the full supermoon, what the supermoon means is that the moon is much closer to the Earth in its orbit and therefore has a much greater gravitational pull on the tectonic plates, etc. And so there are very unstable geomagnetics at this time because the Earth is upgrading too. Gaia is upgrading too. It is hot energy, Mars behaviorally and also environmentally. We've seen many fires, sadly, which are, tragic when they happen because of all the destruction. But there's a kind of cleansing or purification, I think, going on here as well. Remember that Uranus is the planet of awakening. It's the planet of shocking truth. And I think we are going to see many of those going forwards from this point. So that's why I think it will really ignite everything that all the events that follow this. It's going to be a very fast moving few months. And I'm going to stick by what I said in my themes for January 22 video back in January, that I really think the crescendo of the year is what we're building to now. September, October, November, December, I think are enormous months for the world. But please understand why this is happening as well, because if you just think, gosh, this is just jolly bad luck to be born at a time when there's such chaos in the world, it actually has great purpose, because this is a time of accelerated evolution for humanity at phenomenal speed, actually dizzying speed, that we're jumping timelines. As I say, we're raising our consciousness. You are a very different person now to the person you were certainly 2 years ago, a year ago, maybe even 6 months ago, because we are upgrading in our consciousness constantly because of these upgrades of energy coming in. With all of the high frequency energy that many of us can feel physically, the M-class, X-class flares, also the fact the Earth is moving through the photon belt, that only happens once every 12,000 years, give or take 500, all of those things are contributing to our physical upgrade as well as our consciousness upgrade. But what happens in terms of physics when you have very high frequency energy coming in, as we do right now, what happens is anything that is a manifestation of low frequency energy just falls away, just crumbles, which is what we're seeing right now. That's why the old systems and structures are going to be falling away, because it's physics. And so just know that in your heart. This is a big part of the awakening as well. Anything that is not of love will fall away. It's very important to understand that, because once you can understand that very incredibly positive purpose, that shifts your whole sense of meaning in this process. You're not going from, victim, being kind of kicked around by events, to actually I'm riding a wave, which is incredibly exciting, because we are. So have that perspective. I'm going to come back to that later in the video. So this conjunction, Mars, Uranus, North Node. And remember that the North Node is our collective future destiny. So what I was just saying about these upgrades, Uranus goes in quanta, in packets of energy. It's not gradual or linear or comfortable even. It goes in jumps. So because Uranus is exactly conjunct the North Node right now and will continue to be conjunct the North Node till next February 2023, this is a period of, as I say, accelerated growth, but also we are taking quantum jumps in our understanding, quantum jumps in our frequency. So just know that. Uranus is always about how do we get to a higher state of being beyond Saturn, as it were. So, yeah, it's going to be pretty wild, but exciting. Now, this conjunction, as I said last time, is happening at 18 degrees of Taurus. And so that's important if you have any planets or angles between 17 and 19 degrees of the fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, because you'll either be feeling a strong sense of restlessness or desire for freedom or variety or breaking up the old routines, or if you're kind of resisting any changes, very sudden changes can often come from the outside and are less comfortable that way. So be aware of what that Uranian energy is encouraging you to do, because we are going to have a lot of planets in fixed signs moving forwards. In Saturn is in Aquarius right now, fixed sign, moves out of Aquarius as Pluto starts to move into Aquarius. Next March, Uranus stays in Taurus till 2026 completely. Jupiter starts to move into Taurus in May next year for the following 12 months. So we're going to have a lot of planets in fixed signs, but their purpose is also to shake up the old density, if you like, the old physicality of what we've lived through up to now. So we've had a very tangible existence, if you like, in terms of the car we own and the bricks and mortar we own, etc. But we are going to be moving into an age very, very quickly where those things may become much less important as values. And what becomes more important is community, collaboration, coming together with other people, sharing information, sharing resources. And that's what's very exciting and is starting to happen so fast. So this conjunction at 18 degrees of Taurus is actually setting up the final exact square between Saturn and Uranus in October. It's only exact by degree, not by minute, but it's exact at 18 of Aquarius to 18 of Taurus. That happens on the 1st of October, but it's really going to colour the rest of this year. It's going to be felt most intensely late September, early October. And it is linked very much to, I've discussed these themes ad infinitum, I think, but just as a reminder, past Saturn versus future Uranus. Centralization, Saturn; decentralization, Uranus. Control, rules and regulations for your safety, Saturn. Freedom, Uranus. Just don't want any of the rules and regulations. So that's been very clear to see this aspect around all of 2021, strong at the beginning of 22. It's been sort of backing off a little through these middle months, but is coming back strongly again. And the full moon, the full supermoon I'm about to talk about, highlights it yet again. So which countries are, or blocks of countries, is 18 degrees of Taurus highlighting, 18 degrees of the fixed signs? Well, if I look, for instance, at the chart for the EU, which is set for the 1st of November 1993, 1 minute past midnight, Brussels, that has an ascendant, an identity for the EU at 17 degrees of Leo, fixed sign. Mercury for the EU is at 19 degrees of Scorpio, fixed sign. Mercury is to do with trade, etc. And the Leo ascendant is very much the identity of the EU. So this, not only this triple conjunction now, but moving into the autumn in the Northern Hemisphere, the Saturn-Uranus coming back in that 18 degree square of Aquarius-Taurus, is going to unsettle a lot of the status quo in the EU around trade, supplies, identity. For instance, I heard just today, I'm filming this on the 27th of July, I heard today that the very big Russian gas provider, Gazprom, is today halving the supply of gas to the EU. And the EU likes to build up supplies for their winter months, so that's going to become more difficult. So that is so literal to Uranus cutting off Taurus natural resources. When you understand the symbolism, you can see how it starts to play out in the world in so many ways. Another country that's been highlighted at this 18 degrees is the UK. Chart set for 1st of January 1801, midnight London. In that chart, the Neptune is at 18 degrees of Scorpio, fixed in the second house of the country's economy, and Neptune rules the 6th house of the country's employment and also trade to some extent. So both the EU and the UK are going to be very triggered by this 18 degrees, this series of aspects, if you like. Also, as we know, the US is having its own journey with their Pluto return. So expect changes, radical changes in things like supplies, also food supplies. Taurus, we talked about that a great deal. So if I'm looking at the big dominant aspects at this time, not only Saturn-Uranus, as I've discussed, but also for the last 3 years, we've had a very important aspect between Eris in Aries and Pluto in Capricorn that, again, I've discussed in great detail. But just to recap, Eris in Aries is the street fighter that stands up for the individual who isn't heard, maybe on the periphery of society, fights against injustice, inequality, elitism, whereas Pluto in Capricorn, quite like Saturn, because Saturn rules Capricorn, is again top-down control. And that's the clash. So if I had to summarize, because they do have many parallels, these two big dominant squares, in a nutshell, it would be individual freedoms and human rights versus the power of the state being a very, very big theme for the rest of this year. So as I say, coming to a crescendo, we're really at the build point now of that crescendo. So other fine detail for this first half of August, from the 5th to the 7th, the moon goes out of bounds. And what that means is when a planet goes out of bounds, it goes beyond the normal 23 degrees north or south of the ecliptic, and it tends to have a more extreme expression. So the moon is our emotion. In mundane astrology, it's the people and it's our emotion. Well, on the 5th, it comes to oppose Uranus and also Mars. So that means the people are feeling more rebellious and perhaps angry, Mars. But then by the 7th, we have an exact square between Mars and Saturn at 22 of Taurus Aquarius. So that is like hitting a wall. It's hitting the buffers. It's a reality check. So again, this can be more control coming in of that rebellious behavior. It can be quite militaristic as well at times, but it is excellent for really having a disciplined energy to focus on getting a project completed. Excellent for that. So anything few days around the 7th of the month is excellent for that. So then let us look at this full supermoon. So I'm going to share my screen here. So as always, I've set this for the UK because this is where I live, so you'll have to adjust this for your own time zone. Ignore the houses, ignore the clock face of the chart. So we're just looking at where the planets fall and their aspects to each other. And this full supermoon happens on the 11th of August. It happens at 6:35 p.m. Pacific. And as we see here in the UK, it happens the next day on the 12th at 2:35. So let us dive into this. We actually have 6 planets in fixed signs. We have the moon and Saturn, Aquarius fixed, Uranus, Mars here in Taurus fixed, and Venus, Sun Leo, fixed. We have 6 planets in fixed signs. And indeed, we actually have a fixed grand square or a fixed grand cross in this chart. Because if I put in, which I've drawn here, the south node, and remember the south node is not normally shown in a chart, but it is always exactly opposite the north node. So if the north node is at 1851 of Taurus, the south node is at, that should be 1851 of Scorpio there. And so this is a fixed cross because this is an opposition, and this is square to the moon and Saturn. And the moon and Saturn are highlighting, again, shining a light on the Saturn-Uranus square. And that Uranus North Node conjunction is square to the Sun. And again, we're coming back to that being square to the Scorpio South Node. So that is our fixed grand cross or fixed grand square. Now that adds great determination, tenacity to get something done. There's a great focus with this. You are undeterred. You will see something through to the end. But it can also suggest a lot of control, by the way. Fixity can give a lot of control from some party in the world, but it is also potentially entrenched, that people take very clear opposing views and they dig in, as it were. So we could see very entrenched positions at this time. So, as I say, the full moon, full supermoon is highlighting this square, which really, Uranus is almost at 19 of Taurus, so it's just over 3 degrees from exactitude to Saturn. So we're shining a light back on those same themes that I've just talked about. And remember, Uranus conjunct the North Node. This is very special because the North Node is our future collective destiny, and Uranus is taking us in quantum jumps. And to reinforce that, Uranus is also trine to Mercury here, Mercury in Virgo. So this suggests some brilliant new ideas, original ideas. They're both in earth signs, so this could again be to do with food production, agriculture, natural resources, and getting systems that work in a practical way. That's very Virgoan, getting systems that work in a practical way that run like clockwork. So that feeds into another theme I'm going to talk about in a moment. We also have, it's actually just gone out of sign, but on the 9th, Pluto was exactly opposing Venus at the end of Cancer. And if either of these planets fall in your 5th or 7th houses in your chart, and by the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can download a free birth chart from my website, go to the link below, and you can get a 2-part video series that will explain from zero how to find these points in your chart and what it means for you for every update I do. So if these fall in your 5th or 7th houses, this could bring up issues in relationship around jealousy or possessiveness or control. And it can also suggest some shifts in the currency markets and in wealth in general. Venus represents wealth and Pluto is fundamental change. So we could see that operating too. But this full moon in Aquarius, when it's conjunct Saturn, personally, that can feel a little bit introspective, a little bit depressed even, because there's some form of control coming in. But it is wonderful, this conjunction in Aquarius, for building new systems, new networks, all Aquarius energy, systems, networks, and communities, building Saturn for the long term Saturn that are sustainable and realistic Saturn. So this can be super positive. And the kind of thing I mean, a couple of months ago, I interviewed Catherine McBean, who is the founder of the People's Health Alliance. And this is a wonderful Aquarian concept. And rather than me repeating it all over again, I'll just put the link for that that interview below and you can check it out. But the People's Health Alliance has been going now, I think, about 3 months, and it's absolutely meteoric in its growth, not just in the UK, but all over the world, because this is a concept that is so needed. Grassroots out, power of the people for the people, and it's branching out into other areas that I won't discuss now. Hope to be interviewing Catherine in another couple of months and update you on that. But this is exactly the kind of example I'm talking about here. So it isn't abstract, it's actually happening. And there are many other initiatives that I won't discuss quite yet, but I'm sure you're aware of them all around your locality, because they're just blossoming, erupting all over the world. And this is the time, so as the old world collapses, the new world, or the new earth should I say, is already being born. And that's what's super exciting. Another thing just to point out, and I haven't mentioned this dwarf planet before, it's a dwarf planet called Praamzius, Praamzius, and I will write the spelling below so I won't have hundreds of people writing to me asking how you spell it. Again, I'm quoting the work of Kelly Hunter here. I'm quoting her research because she's been amazing. She's a wonderful astrologer in all the work she's done on these Kuiper belt objects and dwarf planets. But the symbolism of Praamzius is very interesting, because here it's conjunct the sun opposite the moon, so it is in this directly opposite Saturn. It is in this very powerful full supermoon, so it's worth discussing. The symbolism is that Praamzius is a Lithuanian sky god. Remember, Uranus is a sky god too, linked to destiny, peace, and friendship. Aquarian energy, friendship. And it is linked to maintaining sacred traditions, which many of the Kuiper belt objects too. They have this ancient quality of bringing back the sacred in ritual. But what I found fascinating is it's all about creating community. So this theme could not be clearer at this time, creating community. And what will help us as well is there's a very tight trine between Mars 25 of Taurus and Pluto at 26 of Capricorn that gives a laser focus to whatever the themes of this full supermoon are. So that helps us too. So I'm going to stop sharing here, but really what I want to say at these times is, as the old collapses, and there's going to be so much drama, so much colour, that it will be very easy for your attention to be caught by the external. You know, not a really big scary thing. What about this? And you know, the deeper we go into low frequency energy, the noisier and the more complicated it becomes, because there are thousands of awful, tragic, horrific problems out there. I mean, absolutely no doubt. But that is living from the outside in. And when you do that, you are giving away your power to the people or events with which you are really quantum entangling with. If you're engaged with negative emotion or fear or panic, whatever, anxiety, there's a quantum entanglement taking place with those events or those people. So be aware of what's happening in the world of quantum physics with this. And so what we must learn to do, and it's the way through all of this, is to live from the inside out, not the outside in. We've lived from the outside in probably most of our lives, buffeted by, rubber hitting the road, nightly news, another scary thing. I haven't watched mainstream media for well over 2 years now. So the way we do this is so simple, because if we simply turn inwards, then it becomes really simple, because there's really only one thing to focus on. Well, maybe two, because they're linked: your breath and your frequency. So as I've discussed before, close your eyes, you drop into your breath, imagine that you're allowing the breath to breathe in and out through the heart, and allow the breath to breathe you. And when that happens, your breath naturally slows, deepens, you're changing biomarkers in your blood very quickly to the positive at this point. You're reducing the cortisol, you're improving your immune system just by doing this. But what it starts to do, that 100% focus on your breath, is not only take you to peace, but it starts to create a sense of anchor, center, and power in you that can start to feel quite sacred. And in terms of power, I'm not talking about an aggressive power or bullying power, absolutely none of that. I'm talking about a quiet, sacred presence. You can feel this with people who meditate a lot. You can feel it in a moment, instantly when you meet them. There's no scattered energy. It's just warmth. It's hell. And they are incredibly loving, peaceful people. But it starts to create this sense of center in you, power in you, coming from your center in how you create the world. And it, as I say, it has this sense of divinity almost. If you can just drop into that, it's Chariklo energy now, that Buddhist eternal state of being, that ground of being, which is silent and always there for us. It's that silence away from the noise. This is where your peace lies. This is where your power lies. So once you start to have that sense of, I am coming from my center, you can then choose to dominate your reality with joy, love, gratitude, appreciation, peace, any of those very positive energies. So you decide what your state of being is going to be, and you beam that out to the world. You beam it out, because I'm not going to have my state of being determined by the 6 o'clock news. Not that I watch it. That is not going to determine my state of being. My state of being, I am going to decide, which is going to help the world. So this is becoming a master co-creator. We are co-creating in every second. We just bumble along and we just don't realize that's what we're doing. But we are. And the more we can come together with like-minded people and join in meditations, or even just be in their company, we are building this sense of something incredibly powerful. And even if you don't know the detail of what you're creating, it really doesn't matter, because you're sending out love, you're sending out joy, you're sending out gratitude, and you will get more things coming back to you to be grateful for. But what then happens, and I'm in a group that does this just kind of instinctively by coming together, there's much more focus on creation moving forwards rather than the demolition site collapsing behind you, which is going to continue for some months and another couple of years, I feel. So focus on creation coming from you. And actually things like the People's Health Alliance exactly have come from this kind of practice, really. People coming together thinking, what can we do to build a better world, dropping into silence, dropping into peace. And there's not a particular method to this other than what I've described. It's really, really simple. As I say, it becomes a one-pointed, simple thing as a kind of versus 1,000 things out there that are crazy and tragic and awful. The way we are going to change this world is focusing on the incredible high frequency energy that's coming in for us and optimizing it. Not pushing away an opportunity of many lifetimes by saying, no, I'd much rather watch this demolition site because it's really colorful and dramatic. So we owe it to ourselves to step up our game, if you like, in living from the inside out, not the outside in. And it's as simple as I've described it. So, bless you. I hope this has helped. These are things that have really helped me through many years of challenges of various kinds. So that's why I like to share them with you, because they've helped me. They're all free, practical, accessible. And the more we can do that simple dropping into the breath exercise, several times a day, the more our world will change. Thank you for listening. Hope it's helped. If you want more information about my books, my teaching videos, long monthly newsletter, just check out my website, pamgregory.com, and be prepared for a very exciting few months. God bless. Bye for now.